Hello and welcome to the part 2 of creating the app functionality using JavaScript. I have added two functions here. The first function is called clear default from line 22 to 25. What this function will do, it will clear, and for example, once you've typed in a task, and it will check to make sure that the task is still not hanging around in the input box. So that's what this value is. Means that if any value is in there, it says if there's a value a.default value is strictly equals to a dot the value, then clear the value and set the value which is a.value equals to make it blank. That's what it means. So it's basically to clear any input that is left hanging around after you've added the task. So that's what that function is there for. Okay, and the second function, which is called the remove function, from line 27 to 36. All right, so what the remove function will do, it is called when the user clicks on any of the tasks to remove them. So if they click on the remove button on the task they no longer need, it will remove that. The remove button will trigger the function and the item will be removed. All right. So this function contains two variables. It's got variable ID, which is set equals to this.get attribute. This refers to the current DOM element, which is being removed as of the time the user clicks on the remove button. Okay, so we retrieve the value of its ID attribute using the get attribute method. Okay, this is the index of the specific to-do item among the to-do items in the database. Okay, so after retrieving the current list of to-do items, we'll use the splice method to remove a specific element from the JavaScript array, and then we store the new task back in the database. So you use push to append and you use splice to remove. Okay, so once the item has been removed, we use the splice method to remove that ID and then store what's left in local storage. Okay, that's basically what this function done. I notice again we've called this show function here. We've not defined it here. Again, this show function, what will do, it will show what's in the database, and we've set a return value so that nothing else is triggered after the show function has been called. The final function we are going to create is this one here called the show. We've called this function several times within other functions, but here where we actually define the function. The show function will display the current to-do list stored in the database. Okay, so if you notice, the first thing it does on line 39 with the variable here is it calls the get to-dos. Okay, so it calls the get to-dos to get the list of array of the to-do items, regardless if they're empty or not. On line 41, we got a variable called HTML and set it equals to the value of a tag, which is an unordered list. So here we are manually creating snippet of some HTML tag from this variable, using the variable to set the value. Okay, so the UI element is an unordered list. We've also set it up with unordered lists. They need to have an li item, which is a list item. So this will be a list item for each of the to-do entry. In addition to the content of the to-dos array, I've also added a button to each of the list items. Okay, so you can see here, I've added a button. This button will be, I've added as a class, so it will be added to each of the list items. So as you add a task, it will automatically insert a button that users can use to remove the task if they no longer require the task. So each of the button belongs to a class called remove, and each button has an ID containing the index of the to-do item in the list retrieved from the database. Okay? So the buttons will enable the users to remove the item they no longer require from the list. On line 47, the document.getElement by ID, and inside the value we passed it the to-dos. What that will do, it will insert the newly generated HTML snippet in the original document loaded from the server. All right, so it will not insert it inside HTML. It actually replaces the content of the element with the ID to-dos. That's what that means. Okay, this means in subsequent calls, it will just show the new list regardless of what was there earlier. That's basically what it does. The inner.html enables it to do that. In the next couple of lines, from line 49 all the way to 51, so the get element by class name. This method is used to fetch all the buttons that are in the remove class. So these are the buttons we added previously, added to each of the to-do item above. So to each button, we assign a event listener that will listen out for any click on the button. When that happens, it will be triggered. Okay, once the user clicks, it will be triggered, and when the user clicks on the button, it triggers off the function. And once the click is done, the event listener triggers up the function. The item is then removed. As you can see here, we've passed it. The click is the event and the remove is the function. Okay, so this is the event. When you attach an event listener, there must be parameters passed. The first will be the event you're listening out for, and the second will be the function that will be triggered when that occurs. So when that occurs, this remove function will come into play and the item will be removed via the button. Line 55 here is the document.getElement by ID, and we've passed it the ID add, which is the task. When you add the task, it's got an event listener attached to it as well. So what that happens when you add a task, for example, and you click, if you click on the task after you've added it, it will trigger this function called add and then call this show function here. All right, so once that is done, this show function here will be called and the list of items will be displayed. So that's it for all the JavaScript code. So I'll save that, and if we run our app, we should get it working now. All right, so this is our app completed. Let's do some tests and see. Let's do hello student. Okay, there you go. Thanks. Okay, so save that. If I refresh, you can see the data is still persistent. All right, so we can just click to delete if we no longer need that, and that will disappear. So now let's see where this data is actually saved, so that you know where to look if you need to. To check where the data is stored, you click on F12 on your keyboard. So the F12 key should bring up a screen like this, and make sure you've got a tab called resources. If you can't see, just expand it and you should see it listed. I am using Google Chrome. So once you click on resources, you should get this list items here. So these are the databases. So on that local storage, you expand that and click on file. So you can see here the key, because local storage stores data using the key and then a value. So the key here is to do, okay, which is this list, and these are the values. You see, any more list I add on here, we just get appended here. So you can see the value here is this one had. So if I add another, so let me say discount, and I click add, and I refresh my browser, you see the discount there is popped up there. All right, so it just stores them as an array. You can see the square brackets there. So it stores them as an array. So that's basically where your items are stored for the to-do list. So that's it for this project. Thanks for watching. I hope it's going to be useful to you. This is a practical tool that you can use yourself or share with others. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.